Now, as fighting continues in Sudan, UN experts have expressed alarm over reports of widespread sexual violence and abductions. The reports concern the Rapid Support Forces, the paramilitary group fighting the armed forces since April. The UN says it is using credible information from survivors, witnesses and other sources. Jen Keo reports.
Reports indicate the RSF may have detained hundreds of women in cruel or degrading conditions in the areas under their control. The victims are allegedly forcibly married and held for ransom. Most have been sexually assaulted and are at a risk of becoming victims of sexual slavery. The UN says these crimes, which appear to be ethnically and racially motivated, are tactics for terrorizing and punishing communities.
Credible information from survivors, witnesses and other sources suggests more than 20 women and girls have been taken, but the numbers could be higher. Some sources have reported seeing women and girls in chains on pickup trucks and in cars. Initial allegations arose early in the conflict in the Khartoum area, which has remained largely under the control of the Rapid Support Forces.
Documentation by the UN Assistance Mission Office in Sudan indicates that at least 105 people have been victims of sexual violence since the fighting broke out in April. The most vulnerable women are those in urban centers and Darfur. But migrants and refugees from Eritrea and South Sudan have also been affected. The ongoing conflict in the country is impeding efforts to reach victims. Despite the RSF's stated zero-tolerance policy for gender-based and sexual abuse, experts point out that men identified as RSF members stand accused of committing these atrocities.
We restate High Commissioner Volker Turk's calls on senior officials of both the Sudanese Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces, as well as armed groups affiliated with them, to unequivocally condemn these vile acts and issue, urgently, clear instructions to their subordinates demanding zero tolerance of sexual violence. They must also ensure that abducted women and girls are promptly released and provided with the necessary support, including medical and psychosocial care, and that all alleged cases are fully and promptly investigated, with those found responsible held accountable and brought to justice.
While the fighting has not abated, international parties have been holding talks with the warring parties. The most recent discussions were steered by Saudi and US officials. The two countries had helped to negotiate short-lived ceasefire agreements in May. Previous talks with the warring factions bore modest results, making some skeptical about a peaceful Sudan in the near future. Jen Keo, CGTN.
Well, let's cross over to CGTN's Naba Mohideen. She's in Port Sudan and joins us live with more. Naba, the UN is raising alarm on the increased cases of sexual violence in Sudan. What can you tell us about this situation?
Actually, Beatrice, it's not the first time the UN released such calls and call for an urgent intervention from the international community and local authorities to prevent such crimes. The risk on Sudanese women and girls is increasing every day, with RSF trying to control new area and extending the war or the conflict into other safer regions. As we saw last week, RSF is desperately trying to control all of the Western Sudan and control some part of it, and now there is fierce clashes in Zalinji and Al-Fashir in a bid to control military bases there and to control the whole region. So the risks on women and girls is increasing every day, and there is a report and eyewitnesses told us that not only in Darfur region but also there is abducted women and girls from Khartoum. They were deployed or taken to Darfur region. They are humiliated and they are in inhuman conditions. They are in chain by RSF. They are facing sexual exploitation and slavery. So the reports are really worrying, and it's a truth. There is a lot of reports of missing girls every day in Khartoum and in Darfur region, and the situation is risky and increasing every day with RSF and also the SAF, Sudanese Armed Forces conflict. There is no solution looming unless the two warring factions put an end to this war and respect all of the human rights agreements. And of course, one of it is preserving women's rights and protecting women's women and girls. So the situation is really bad, and it's risky and increasing every day whenever the fighting extends to new regions.